back for episode number 157 of the weekly playback. So I finally got a haircut. It's a bit shorter than I would have liked, but it's actually good because it'll grow out to the length that I like by the time Essen rolls around. And I decided to get rid of my bangs, so they're actually cut at an angle, so they don't look hideously bad like they have for the last few weeks. So that's good. Yeah, so this weekend ended up being much busier than I thought it would. So I'm actually shooting this video on a Monday, which is Labor Day. So thankfully it's a holiday, so I actually managed to fit in a video. But anyway, I'll talk about some stuff that's kept me busy later on in the video in different sections. But yeah, so let's just get into the games that I played last week. Let's talk about Ink. Ink is a 2025 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Casper Lapp, and the art is done by Chris Quilliams, and it's published by Final Score Games. And this is a review copy, which I received from Asmodee USA. So this is an abstract strategy pattern building game. So in this game, you are basically going to be moving your pawn around this wheel and collecting tiles and adding those tiles to your tableau in order to complete objectives. So there's going to be one tile placed around each quill on this wheel, and as soon as one is taken, it will get replenished, though there are some instances you won't replenish it until the end of the turn. Actually, you won't replenish it until the end of a player's turn because there are certain bonuses that might trigger, which you don't want to replenish the tile right away, actually. So you wait until the end of the player's turn to replenish the wheel. You're going to start with your lead bottle over here and then go around as far as you want. You can even end up on the quill that you started on. Anytime you pass an X, you will have to take a certain X tile, and I'll explain what those are. Here is the bonuses palette, or whatever it's called, square. So on this, you're going to have some abilities that will trigger, and when you complete objectives with these numbers on them. So I'll explain that in a little bit. And each person is going to start with a palette card. So there's different palette cards, and you're going to place 12 of your own bottles onto the palette card, and then 12 of your bottles off to the side. So each person has 24 bottles, and the objective of the game is to get rid of all of your bottles first. So you want to be the first person to use up all of your bottles, and if you are, then you are the winner. If there's a tie, you will continue until someone breaks the tie with these black bottles that are like overstock bottles, which you might need to use as you are towards the game end and trying to determine a winner. So basically on your turn, you're going to take your lead bottle, which starts on the X, and move it to any quill spot you want. And it can even be a quill spot that another person's bottle is at. And then you take the tile and add it to your tableau. Every person starts with a starting tile, and the starting tile has 2 numbers on it. And then all the other tiles will, I believe, only have 1 number, if any number at all. So here are some examples of starting tiles. So each person will have a starting tile, and you are trying to connect areas of the same color together so that you can then score the objectives. And these circles are what are called the objectives. So if you created a large area of red, for example, so let's suppose I created this on a turn. So let's suppose I just added this tile. So now I can score this red area if I want to. So how I would do that is I would place 1 bottle upside down onto the objective, the number 4, and then I would have to place bottles into these white spots as well, but those would be the right side up. And the reason I can do that is because there are at least 4 red squares connected to the tile I just placed, so I can score that area. So in order to complete an objective, these conditions must be met. So the colored area has at least 1 objective. The colored area has at least as many adjacent matching squares as the objective number. The colored area size has been increased at least once during this turn by placing a tile, moving or discarding a bottle, moving a tile, etc. You have at least 1 bottle in stock that you can play on an area of that color. So if you've met those criteria on your turn, then you can complete an objective. Once you complete the objective, so again, you will place 1 bottle upside down onto the objective number, and then other bottles right side up onto any plain white circles. So again, the goal is to get rid of your bottles first, so that is something you want to do. You can trigger more than one objective on one turn, so you will complete one before then completing another objective if you have managed to complete more than one on a turn. That is like the main part of the game. And then if you completed an objective matching one of these numbers, so for in this example that I just showed you, if I covered a number 4, then I could see what was on the bonus tile over here and then do that bonus action. So you will randomly place some of these bonus tiles out onto this board. And so they will be different from game to game. So each game you will have different bonus tiles. So for example, and they have different numbers on them, and they will be numbered from low to high, so that the bottom ones are the ones that are more like valuable bonuses, you can say. So for example, here's a number 10 bonus. Remove up to 2 ink bottles from 2 different colored areas. So again, you know, why you might want to do that, I don't know, but apparently you might want to at some point in time. So again, there's different bonus tiles with different kinds of bonuses on them. Some of them, like there's one that allows you to take a colored square and place it anywhere onto your tableau. So that's how that works. Now, anytime you pass over the X spot on this color wheel, you have to take an X tile. So at the beginning of the game, you are going to fill this X bag with the single X tiles first, and you will place 3 tiles per player into this bag. So anytime you pass over that X, you will draw a random X token tile, and then you will have to cover at least 1 square of the matching color. So if I drew this, I would have to cover at least 1 purple square, and then the other square I cover can be any color. However, once all the single ones are depleted, then you're going to have to draw a tile that has 2 X's on it, and in that case, you have to cover 2 colors of the color that you've drawn. So in this case, you have a choice. So I could cover 2 reds if I wanted to, or if I had this, for example, I could cover 2 purples then. So you get a choice between which colors you want to use when you have to draw one of these X tiles. So that's going to limit your tableau area and make objectives harder and harder to complete as the game progresses every time you pass that X on this wheel. But that is essentially the game. So you're trying to be the first person to get rid of all of your bottles. So the game ends. So when a player places their last ink bottle, it triggers the end of the game. The game continues as normal until all players have played the same number of turns. Now, this is the part where you might end up needing to use these overstock bottles. So if you are, you know, in the last round and you've already placed all of your bottles and you still have more bottles you can place, then you can place these black overstock bottles. And if there's a tie, then the tied players keep on going until someone wins in a round. So they can just keep on going and going until there's finally a winner. But that is essentially the game. So it's a really easy game to play in terms of rules, like setup and rules, just a little bit tricky in terms of trying to maximize the number of bottles you can place out and such. So I'm going to post a picture here where I messed up royally. I would have been in the running at game end, and we would have, you know, all been tied had I not screwed up royally. I drew a double X tile and I screwed up so bad and placed it into my red area, creating 2 separate areas, because there was a tile with a red 7 on it that I was going to pick up and then place out a crap ton of bottles in 1 turn, which would have used up all my bottles, and then I would have been in the running for, you know, being the winner at the end of the game. But unfortunately, I accidentally, stupidly, placed the double X token in an area where it split up my large red area into 2 separate smaller red areas that were diagonal, so not orthogonally adjacent, not orthogonally connected anymore. So I just really screwed myself over in my game, and I was so angry at myself, and I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for such a stupid mistake, because there was another area on my tableau that I could have placed that tile, and I just screwed myself over so badly. So yeah, so I was pretty angry at myself, and I still am angry at myself for doing that. Because I was creating this amazing large red space with all these white circles on it, which would have had bottles go on them. And there was a red tile that I was waiting to collect so that I could complete the objective for that area, but nope, I just really, really messed up. But yeah, it's a fun game. When I first saw the game, like when I first opened it up and looked at the components, like I was a little bit scared. I was like, oh gosh, this is giving me color field vibes. And that game I just thought was really horrible and I could not understand how it was published. But this game is actually really fun and really interesting and nothing like color field. So do not let the look of this game put you off. It's an actually really fun, interesting abstract strategy game. And I definitely want to play again because I seriously messed up and I want to play again and not mess up and hopefully try to be in the running for the winner of this game. Let me just show you the bottles because the bottles are really cool. So really nice components and the bottles are just really nice. So the bottles look like this. So again, you will place it upside down on the number spots for the objectives you're completing and then right side up on the white blank circles. And you want to be the first person to get rid of all of your bottles. Oh, so one thing I forgot to mention is what these palette cards are for. So you will have 12 bottles on this palette card, and those bottles can only be placed on areas matching these two colors. The 12 bottles off to the side are your joker bottles, and those can be placed on any color. There might be some bonus actions that allow you to move a bottle from your palette to your joker pile, which if you can do, you want to do, because again, joker bottles can be placed anywhere. So let me see if I can find that bonus one. Well, I'll just read you a couple of these bonus tiles. So this one says draw one tile from ink bag and play it immediately. So if you got that bonus, you could do that. Yeah, place one white spot on a free square. So that's really cool. So this game, it does come with a bunch of white spots. So you can place those. So that's when these would be used. Change the number of an objective. So again, that's when these would be used. Remove up to 2 ink bottles from 2 different colored areas. So I suppose you would want to do this if you can now place out tiles that would allow you to use those same circles again and complete some objectives, maybe a larger objective. So yeah, maybe that's why you would want to do that. Yeah, so there's just a bunch of different kinds of bonuses. I know that there was one that, I don't know, I can't find that one now. But yeah, there's a number of these different bonus tiles, so each game will be a little bit different. And again, when you complete one of these objective numbers, that's when you would trigger these bonuses. So that is essentially the game. And again, the person who removed all of their bottles first, got rid of all of their bottles first, is the winner. And again, in case of a tie, you keep on going around and around until the person who played the most black ink bottles wins. So that's what you're going to do. And that is ink. Yeah, there are some, like little tricky situations that come up that you might want to refer to the rule book to see what you do, especially when you are triggering completing 2 objectives in one turn, which can happen. And you might be able to do a little bit of chaining as well in this game because of the bonuses and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really fun abstract game, which I really enjoyed. And again, this was a review copy from Asmodee. So thank you to Asmodee for sending this my way. So that was ink. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. Let's talk about Artistry. This is a 2025 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Amy Droz and Dusty Droz, and it's published by Duke's Somnium Games. And this is a copy which I backed on Kickstarter. So this is the deluxe edition of this game. So this is an abstract strategy set collection game. So in this game, you are going to have this one big market board. So this is the deluxe version, so I don't know what the non-deluxe version looks like, but the board is really nice. It's dual layered, it's wooden, just a very high quality production board with just really beautiful artwork. So I will say that it was the artwork which really got me. This is the score tracker, the renown tracker. So you will keep track of your points on this really nice board. This is the first player marker, so it is a really beautiful coin, just really, really nice. And then we have a bag, like this velveteen bag filled with all of the different tiles of different colors, which are, I guess, plastic. So these are like just some of the tiles. And they have different like screen printing on them, just with their different artwork. So just really beautiful tiles. Yeah. And again, a whole bag filled with, I think I showed you all of them. Did I? I don't know. Is that all of the colors? Maybe. Yeah, I think that's all of the colors. I think there's 5 colors in total. So again, a really nice bag filled with all of the tiles. And then these are the score trackers. Again, little plastic score trackers, just really pretty. Yeah. And then we just have a bunch of cards, and this copy came with some mini expansions. So I backed the mini expansions, but all the cards are just mixed in. So basically you have all of these like cards that you are trying to complete, like these projects. So you will see that there's a symbol associated with each project, and I'll talk about why that becomes important. But all of these just have really different, beautiful artwork on them, just really, really nice. And you will see how many points you get underneath the symbol for each project that you complete. And basically, in order to complete a project, you're just going to turn in the matching number of tiles and then gain that number of points. So those are all of the projects that you can complete. And then you are going to have your artist, your artisans. So there are going to be artisans of each different guild type. So for example, this kind. So you'll see that there's going to be artisans, there's going to be journey women, and then there's going to be masters for each different guild type. And each different person of each different guild is going to give you an ability to pick up tiles in a certain way. So for example, sorry, they're apprentices, that's what they are. So the apprentices, you go from apprentices to journeywoman to master, and there's going to be 1 master available of each guild type. Although with the expansion I backed, there's going to be 2 masters available, but only 1 can actually be acquired during the game. So we'll talk about that, and you would just remove the other from the game after you've collected the master you want. So just for example, let me just show you. So in this, for example, this guild type, you will see that all of the apprentices give you the same ability. And then all of the journey women give you the same ability. And then there's going to be 1 master, but again, I have the expansion, so there's 2 different master types for this particular guild, and you will pick the one you want if you've earned the ability to pick up a master. So there are 5 different guild types, and each person is going to start with an apprentice of one of the guild types to begin the game. So each person will have 1 apprentice to start the game, which will give them the ability to pick up tiles, and I'll get to that in a second. There are going to be these special ability cards, which you can earn, and there will be 3 face up in each game. So let me just show you some examples. So they all just give you some kind of a special ability that you can use once per round. And if you happen to use one of these once per round, then you would flip it upside down, and then you would be able to turn it right side up for the next round. And I'll talk about how you manage to collect one of these. So at the start of the game, you are going to fill this market board with tiles depending on player count. So if you are in a 2-player game, you're going to fill up the 4x4 grid here. If you're in a 3-player game, then you're going to fill up this area. And if you're in a 4-player game, you will fill up the entire area with tiles. So on your turn, you will do one of 3 things. You will either pick up tiles, you will complete a project, or you will pass. So if you pick up tiles, that's when you can use any of the artisans you have in front of you. So again, everyone starts with 1 apprentice associated with 1 guild type. So if I had this apprentice, I could pick up 2 tiles that are diagonal to each other. Now I will say that ignore the color that you see on these cards, because the colors do not matter. So you do not need to pick up matching colors when you pick up tiles from the market board. This just shows you the orientation of the tiles, and that's it. And the color just matches up with the guild type. So it does not indicate the color of the tiles that you are picking up. So that's important, because otherwise you will restrict yourself a lot and you won't get anywhere with this game if you think it matches, if it's supposed to match the card. So again, the different apprentices will tell you which orientation the tiles are in that you can pick up. So for this guild, they are diagonal, but for this guild, they are in that position. So the empty ones you will not be picking up, but that just helps you to understand the orientation of the tiles that you can pick up. So here's another apprentice from a different guild, just 2 tiles next to each other. Here's another one, basically just 1, then skip 1, and then pick up 1. And then here's another one, 1, skip 2, and pick up 1. So apprentices will allow you to pick up two tiles. Journeywomen will allow you to pick up 3 tiles. And if you earn the master, you will be able to pick up 4 tiles. So what you are trying to do is you are trying to also kind of get a little bit of an engine going with the projects you complete so that you can then get better artisans to pick up more tiles. So in order to get an apprentice of a certain guild, again, everyone starts with 1 random apprentice associated with one of the guilds, but in order to get an apprentice of a different guild, you have to complete at least 1 project associated with that guild. So suppose I started with this apprentice that's associated with this comb guild, and I wanted an apprentice that is associated with this guild, then I would need to complete 1 project card that has this symbol on it. So if I completed this, now I could pick up the apprentice that is associated with that guild, and now I have 2 apprentice cards that I can choose from when picking up tiles on my turn. So you need to complete 1 project card in order to get an apprentice of that guild. You need to complete 2 project cards in order to get a journeywoman of the associated guild, and 4 project cards in order to get the master of the associated guild. And again, there's only 1 master available per guild. So if you were the first person to complete 4 of these types of cards projects, then you can get the master of that guild. So with the expansion that I have, you would choose which of the 2 masters you want, and the other would be removed from the game. And again, masters give you the ability to pick up 4 tiles at one time. So that's how the artisans work, the apprentices, journeywomen, and masters. So you need to earn the apprentices, the journeywomen, and the masters by completing more projects of that particular guild type. And the more artisans you complete, the more variability you have when you are selecting tiles from the market board. When you select a tile from the market board, it does not get replenished immediately. So it won't get replenished until the start of the next round. So on your turn, you will either pick up tiles, you will complete a project card, or you will pass if you can't do either. You are limited to having 10 tiles in your supply at any one time. When you complete a project, then you take those tiles and you set them off to the side, and those will not be used again unless necessary to refill the board. So the discards, the remnants, are put off to the side and will not be used again or put back into the bag until necessary. And those are called the remnants. And there may be special abilities that allow you to swap a tile from the board with a remnant tile, and so on. So the special ability cards, there are going to be 3 put out at the start of each round. And in order to select one of these, you need to be the first person who takes the last tile of the color that's indicated. So if these 3 were available in a round, if I was the first person who took the last purple tile, then I would be able to take this special ability card, which I can then start using immediately in that round, which will give me a once per round special ability. So for example, this one allows you to replace 1 material in the market with 1 purple tile from the remnant pile. So as I mentioned before, some of these will allow you to utilize utilize the remnant pile and give you a little bit of a boost in ability in order to help you complete stuff. This one, for example, says copy the shape of an opponent's apprentice when acquiring material tiles on this turn. So again, these are one-time abilities per round, and at the end of the round, you can flip them back face up so that you can use them again in the next round. So, but they do not get replenished immediately when someone takes one. And it is possible that you might end up taking 2 in a round where someone else doesn't take one because you were the person who, you know, took the last tile for 2 of the colors. And if there happen to be 2 of the same colored tiles, cards available in one round. So for example, if there was 2 purples and a green, and I was the first person to take the last purple tile, then I would choose between these 2 cards and the other card would go away. So that's how that works if there is more than one card showing a certain color. So yeah, so basically on your turn, you are going to either take tiles, complete a project, or pass. And you pass if you can't either take tiles or complete a project. Once everyone has passed for the round, then the round ends and you will check to see for game end. Game end is triggered once someone reaches 20 renown points, and then the game ends and you count up any bonus points you have. So at the end of the game, you will get points for the numbers of different artisans you have. So let's suppose someone reached 20 points in a certain round, so the game end is triggered. Then you will get points for unique artist apprentices that you will see here. So if you have 3 unique apprentices, you will get an additional 2 points. 4 unique apprentices, you will get an additional 3 points. 5 unique apprentices, you will get an additional 4 points. And then if you have inspiration cards, you will get 1 point per inspiration card. And then you will get 1 point per journey woman you have and 4 points per master you have. Yeah, and that is it. Artisan advancement. Oh yeah, so that's how many you need in order to advance. So that's how that works. And I just realized that I did not get points for my inspiration cards, so I probably should have won actually. So I played this game with my 2 sisters, and my older sister won by 1 point, but I'm pretty sure I had more inspiration cards than her, but we forgot to add up our points for inspiration cards, and I had quite a few inspiration cards. So I think I should have won actually, not her, but I'll let her think that she won. She thought this game was really pretty, and she's not a board gamer by any means, but this was easy for her to understand and easy for her to play. So it is a very simplistic game. It's a super simple game with not a whole lot going on. So this is a kind of game that if you really just enjoy really pretty things, then you might like it. It's just a nice way to pass time, I guess, or play with people who are not like heavy gamers or hobby gamers, because it's really easy for them to understand. So you know, I use my sister as kind of like the person to tell, you know, to figure out whether a game can be played with non-gamers. And if my older sister is able to play this game, she's very smart. She's a doctor, but when it comes to board games, she just does not have a mind for board games. But this one, I did not need to guide her at all. She was able to take her turns without any guidance and do what she needed to do. So a simple game for people who are not gamers to play. And again, the artwork is just really, really beautiful. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot going on here to keep it super duper interesting. I'm not sure how many times I would want to play this game, but since my sister loves it, if I grow tired of it, I know I can just give it to her and she would be happy to have this. So that's good to know. So I'm not really sure that it was worth the cost, because again, this is a deluxe edition and it was pretty pricey if I remember correctly. But again, not a whole lot of game for a very stunning, beautiful game, but just not a whole lot of game there. So yeah, but again, it was a pleasant experience, but not a whole lot to do or think about. So yeah, so that was Artistry. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you should check it out. And I'll just show you the inside of the box, because the inside of the box is really beautiful as well. So again, just really love the artwork and the components, just really, really beautiful Art Deco style stuff here. So yeah, so that was Artistry. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. Let's talk about Propolis. This is a 2025 game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankwich. And it's illustrated by Dylan Mangini, and it's published by Flat Out Games. And this is a copy which I backed on Kickstarter, so this is not a review copy. So this is a worker placement area control contract fulfillment game. So in this game, you are basically bees and trying to build different buildings. So each person is going to have a player board that looks like this, and you're going to be keeping track of your different resources with your different tokens here on your own player board. And each person is going to have worker bees, and all of your worker bees except for 3 will be in your supply. So 3 you will put off to the side that you can earn throughout the game. So the different resources that you will be trying to earn are these yellow, orange, blue, pink, and purple. And then this is the wild resource tracker. And you will start on 1 on all of these except for wild, which you start on 0 if I remember correctly. So again, here are the different player colors. So we have like this magenta, this teal, green, and this blue color for the different player colors. So for setup, you are going to give each person a starting structure. So all of these cards are dual purpose. So all of the Queen's Palace cards can have starting structures on the other side. So on one side, you will see all of these different Queen's Palaces, which I'll explain in a minute how you get those or build those. And on the reverse are the starting structures. Now I have these special Kickstarter promo cards mixed in, but your starting structure, for example, might look something like this. So it'll give you a permanent resource, a scoring endgame scoring condition, as well as some additional starting resources. So again, you start on 1 for all of your resources, but if a card gives you additional starting resources, then you're going to add those to your resources before you begin the game. Here is a special promo card that came with the Kickstarter, which does not give you any additional starting resources. But it gives you a starting pink resource, a permanent resource, which are harder to get in this game. So it's a little bit more valuable. And the purple are the hardest to get. So this promo card, which gives you a permanent purple, actually takes away one of your starting resources. And quite frankly, I would have loved this card to start the game with because purple was really hard to get. So again, these cards are double-sided. So they have the Queen's Palaces on the other side, which I'll explain in a little bit. And then you have these double-sided cards. So on one side, you are going to have all of these different plants, which your bees can land on during the worker placement phase, and you'll be landing on these different spots in order to gain different resources or do different actions. And then on the reverse side are the buildings that you can build. So you're going to have a big market area placed with cards that you can land on. So in a 3-player game, I believe it was a 4x3 grid. So yeah, it looked something like this. So you're going to have your field where your bees can land. You're going to have all these cards available to purchase, and then the Queen's Palaces. So the landscape cards, in a 3 to 4 player game, you will have 12 cards in total. So cards like this. So 4 in 1 row with 3 rows. And then in a 3-player game, you will have 6 structure cards to no, those are the Queen's Palace cards. So I think we had a lower, okay, so the Queen's Palace cards. So it looks like you'll always have 10 structure cards available to choose from in order to build. And then the Queen's Palace cards, it looks like in a 1 to 2 player game, you'll have 5. In a 3-player game, you'll have 6. And in a 4-player game, you'll have 7 Queen's Palace cards to choose from. And again, the Queen's Palaces look like this, and you can only build 1 per game. So if you build a Queen's Palace, you can not build another. But structure cards, you can build, as many as you want until game end is triggered. So game end is triggered once someone has 10 structures in their area, which includes their starting structure and would include a Queen's Palace. So as soon as someone builds their 10th structure, the game end is triggered. In order to build a structure, you're going to spend resources, and I'll get into that in a minute. So let's talk about what you do on your turn. So on your turn, you're going to do one of the 5 following actions. You can deploy worker beeples. So again, you start with all of your worker bees except for 3 of them, which you might be able to earn during the game. So when you deploy a worker beeple, you will take as many workers as you want, and place them onto a single landscape card that doesn't have any other bees on it. So for example, if this card was available, I could choose to put 1 worker bee on here or 2 worker bees on here. When you place a worker bee, you place it standing up and then you immediately gain the resource or the action underneath it. So in this case, if I had a worker bee here and 1 here, I would increase my yellow resource by 1 and my purple resource by 1. So that is one action you can do. So again, you can decide how many worker beeples you want to put out. If you put out a worker beeple onto a round bee spot, then you gain a bee of yours from the general supply that is off to the side. If you place a worker bee onto this area, and then that's a special area where you can either, you can take the like you can pretend it's a spot that is on one of the adjacent cards. So if it was adjacent to this and I put my bee here, then I could take either an orange or orange resource or get one of my bees if I wanted to. So that's what those special squares mean. So those are special squares that you can do that. No, actually, sorry, that's not one of those ones. I'm confusing it with this one. So that's what that one does. This one is a exchange spot, I believe. So let me just double check because I think I got those two confused. Where is that one? I believe that that's just an exchange spot. But the one where you can pretend, yeah, so this one is trade any one resource by reducing its quantity by 1 on its resource track and increasing any other resource's quantity by 1 on its resource track. Note, wild resources may not be increased in this way. So that's what that one does. It's this one, which is a special Kickstarter promo card that has these spaces on it where you can pretend it's a spot that is adjacent to that card. So if I placed a worker bee here, I could either gain a blue resource or I could trade a resource for one of any other resources if I pretended it was the spot. So that's what that diamond does. So again, those are on special promo cards that came with the Kickstarter. There are some cards that have 3 spots on them, and those are always going to be of a single resource color. So the ones with 3 spots will always have just 1 entire resource color. Actually, that's not true. Here's one with 3 spots. But again, it has 2 exchange spots and 1 color like that. So just a whole variety of different cards. So that's what deploying worker beeples means. You get to place any number of bees you want onto a landscape card that doesn't already have bees on it. So that's one of the actions you can do. Another action choice is to fortify worker beeples. You tip up to 2 of any of your deployed worker beeples on their side to regain the rewards on those spaces. So if I already had 2 standing bees on this card, I could now make them lie down flat to fortify them and regain the resource or the benefit that I just fortified that bee of. So again, that's fortifying bees. So that's another action you can do. And fortified bees matter during area control. Another action you can do is to retreat worker beeples. You can return any number of your worker beeples from any number of landscape cards to your personal supply. Another thing you can do on your turn is to construct a structure. So this is where you spend the required number of resources and or worker bees in order to add a structure to your area. So some structures will require a bee to be spent. So for example, this structure, you need to spend 1 bee and put it back in the general supply, and then 2 orange, 4 blue, 1 pink, and then you can add this structure. Now structures will give you a permanent resource in some instances, or an immediate benefit, and then maybe some type of an end game scoring. So here's one that gives you an immediate benefit. So you immediately get to take 2 bees from the supply and add it to your personal supply if you build this card, and it simply gives you 2 points at the end of the game, and it belongs to the letter B guild. So that's how that card works if you built it. This one will give you a permanent yellow resource, and this is its end game scoring condition. This one gives you a permanent wild resource, which is great because these wild resources will count not only when you are building structures as a permanent resource that you can use, but they can also count as resources during end game scoring. So for example, if you had this card, you could use this permanent wild resource to count towards this scoring condition at the end of the game if you had built this one. So a bunch of different cards with structures on them that give you different things when you build them. So that is another action you can do. And then finally, the last action you can do on your turn, if you choose to do this action, is to construct a queen's palace. Now, in order to construct a queen's palace, you have to have these resources as permanent resources available in order to construct. And you can use a wild permanent resource in order to construct a queen's palace. So for example, if I wanted to build the Mangini estate, I would need to spend 2 bees, 2 yellow permanent resources. I'd have to have 2 blue permanent resources and 2 pink permanent resources on my permanent structures. So if I had 2 yellow, 2 blue, and 1 pink, but a wild permanent resource, then I could still build this card and add it to my tableau. And these will give you a wild guild that can be used for scoring in any type of guild when it comes to end game scoring. So again, these cards score for different things, and some of them score for guilds. So let me just find an example of one that scores for different guild types. Okay, here's one. So for example, you can get 1 point for every B guild card you have, and in that case you can use your wild guild to score that. So that is how the bees, the queen's palaces work. You need to have permanent resources available on your structures in order to build these. And again, only 1 queen's palace per player. So you can, once you build a queen's palace, you cannot build another. And it doesn't have to be the last card you build either. So I built my queen's palace before I built some other structures to trigger game end, which you can do. So again, you have to do one of the 5 actions on your turn. Deploy worker beeples, fortify worker beeples, retreat worker beeples, construct a structure, or construct a queen's palace. Once a row of landscape cards has bees on it and there's no empty landscape card, at the end of that player's turn, you will check to see who controls that row. So the person who has the most bees on it will control that row. So if you have fortified beeples, they will count as 2 as opposed to standing bees, which count as only 1. So you add up the value of each person's bees, and whoever controls it, they get to take back all of their bees for free, which, you know, saves them from using the retreat worker beeples action, which is really nice. So they get to take back all of their worker bees for free, and then you take the rightmost empty landscape card, discard it, move the cards down, and add a new landscape card to the row. So that is how area control works. And if you were the person with the most bees when area control was being determined, but you were not the active player during that turn, then you also gain a wild resource. So that is one of the ways you can gain wild resources, which is really helpful. And again, wild resources can be used to build structures. At the end of the game, you will be able to count any remaining resources on your player board for scoring as well. So if you have any cards that score for resources, like for example this one, that includes permanent resources as well as resources left over here. So again, game end is triggered once someone has built 10 structures, and then you finish the round until everyone has had an equal number of turns, and then you go to game end scoring. So you will score each structure card separately based on its points, and then you will count up also the unused resources on all 6 of your tracks, and then divide that number by 5, and that you get for unused resources. You will total points from each structure card along with the number of points of unused resources, and then whoever has the most points will win. And again, structure cards all score in different ways. And again, some of them might score for resources, some of them might score for guild cards, and so on. But that is essentially the game. So it's a really, you know, fun kind of quickish worker placement set collection area control game. But yeah, just really fun and quick game in a nice small box. So I like it. So yeah, so I'm glad I backed this one. I didn't have any of the other kinds of small box games from Flat Out Games, but the look of this game really appealed to me. I really liked the artwork and the colors and everything, and it's a good game. So I'm glad I backed this one. I think it's a good, quick game to play with enough going on to keep things interesting. Definitely for like seasoned gamers, but also unseasoned gamers can also easily play this. It's not super complicated. So yeah, so that was Propolis, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. So some other games I played recently, I played a game of Savernake Forest from Devere Games, which is just a little cute tableau tile placement game with a very autumn theme. So that was really cute. So I played a 2-player game of that with my little sister who was visiting for the last week. I played a 2-player game of A Place for All My Books with my little sister, who is not like a super seasoned gamer, but she really kicked my butt in this game. So yet again, I lost, but it was really fun even at 2 players, and she picked it up really well and really enjoyed the game. So yeah, so it was really great at 2 players as well. Would highly recommend. And I played another game of It's a Wonderful World, and this time a 6-player game. And yeah, it was fun at 6 players. And it's very much just an engine building game in which you're collecting resources. It's like a kind of like Splendor. No, is it like Splendor? No. What's it like? 7 Wonders. But you're building up like, you know, cards. You're like, you know, purchasing cards. Some cards are not purchasing them. You're drafting cards during this pick and pass, and some cards will be used to build other cards for their resources. So you'll, you know, after the whole pick and pass part is completed, then you determine which cards you want to use for their resources to help start constructing other cards. And once you construct cards, they start generating resources. So it's a very much an engine building game in which you're just trying to generate more and more resources to build more and more cards and score different cards in different ways at the end of the game, because different cards have different scoring different ways in which they score at the end of the game. Yeah, so played another game of that. So those are some of the games I played recently. So let's move on. So I'm currently not backing anything on Kickstarter or GameFound, so I just have a couple of new arrivals. So with my Propolis, I also received my pledge of Point Galaxy. So I don't own any of the other Point games. Like, I had no interest in Point Salad. Like, I thought the theme was just really, really boring. Point City I've played once or twice, which I really enjoyed with a friend's copy. So when I saw Point Galaxy, I was like, okay, maybe I should finally get one of these Point games, because I do like space as a theme. So I backed Point Galaxy with my copy of Propolis. So I received this. I haven't played it yet, but I'll just show you the inside quickly, and then we can go on to something else. So this is the insert. It just has a bunch of different cards, a small little score pad, and a bunch of these like little rocket ship tokens. I'm assuming these are some kind of scoring tokens, so there's just a bunch of those as well. Now it looks like the cards are double-sided, so it looks like they have the sun on one side and then some kind of a planet or something on the other. And I haven't played this yet, so I don't know how it plays, and I don't know when you use which side. So again, no idea. So looking for, ooh, some of these have a wormhole on the other side, actually, instead of the sun. That's pretty cool. Ooh, some of them have a moon. Oh, that is so cool. Ooh, and the moons are different colors. Oh, that is cool. Ooh, asteroids. Those are cool. Clearly, I did not realize that all of the cards had something on the other side until just now. Okay, so yeah, so that is really cool. I didn't notice that. I'm pretty oblivious, obviously. So yeah, ooh, look at this moon. That is very cool. Oh, that is really, really cool. I did not realize they had all that other stuff on the other side. So yeah, so looking forward to playing this at some point. So that is a new arrival. And then another new arrival is, since I'm a completionist, I feel like an idiot backing these because I have yet to play any of these games actually. So this is my third in the collection. So I already have LUDOS Asia and Africa, and now I have LUDOS America. So this is from the publisher, which publisher is this from? What is the publisher's name? I can't even remember. But it's the same publisher that did Chili Mafia, and they create these like collections of ancient games to preserve ancient like indigenous games. So this is the Americas collection. So with the Americas collection, it includes 4 different 2-player games, one from Hawaii, one from Simply America, whatever that means, whether it's South America, North America, who knows. One from Chile and one from Guatemala. So 4 different 2-player games, and they just have these cute little boxes that you pull out. And in the box, there's usually a pouch with the little components and stuff that go with that indigenous game. So just a really cool collection. I actually happen to have the other 2 sitting here, so I'll just grab them, but I actually haven't played them. So I have the Africa collection. So it's got a very cool Africa theme with the box. And here is the original Asia collection, which I have. So wondering what they will do next, if they will do one, because they've done Asia, Africa, and America. So what's left? Europe? So maybe they can do a Europe collection. So yeah, so that came in. And then I received a review copy of a game that I'll be covering for its Kickstarter. And I believe it's launching in October. I don't recall seeing anything about an embargo, so I'll just show you some of the components. And hopefully I'll get this played sometime in September to shoot my video before I go off to Essen, though I'm not sure of the exact date that it's launching on Kickstarter. So this is Hood, Troubles, and Sherwood from, Phalanx Games. And I've covered a number of their games for Kickstarter before. So the most recent one I did for them was Lords of Heaven. So I haven't covered all of their games, only the ones that kind of seem interesting to me. So Lords of Heaven was the last one that I covered for them. So this is an asymmetric game in which you're playing different factions, a Robin Hood asymmetric game. So again, this is a pre-production copy, and the production copies always look much nicer, but here are the different player boards. So you can play as either the Bishop of Hereford, you can play as the French nobility, you can play as the Sheriff of Nottingham, and then you can, this board is a bit longer, so you actually have to assemble it, or you can play as Robin Hood. So this one you have to put together, and that's the Robin Hood board. And again, each board, each player, each faction comes with its own special components and cards and stuff. So like, for example, here are all the components for the French nobility, and then like the sheriff, I think that was the sheriff's. Robin Hood is the green one, so he's got his stuff, and yeah, and whatever the last one was. And there's a bunch of different cards with like different actions and stuff on them, so pretty cool. And then just a bunch of different other components, like these cool looking meeples and coins. Of course, there's going to be coins in this game because it's a Robin Hood game. I think I already showed you that. And then there's some dice and some other components. And then of course there is the main board. Oh, there's also these kinds of player aids and stuff, which I'm sure will come in very handy when playing this game. So again, pre-production copy, so don't judge it based on what it looks like right now. But yeah, I think these are 2 things stuck. It feels like 2 things. Ah, yeah, there we go. So these are different player aids for the different factions. And then there's an appendix here. Oh, and the rule book is down there. I didn't show you the rule book. But then there's a really large board, which I'm not sure if I'll open up the whole thing because it's quite big. But just to go, okay, maybe I will, since I already started. Okay, so I think it's upside down. Okay, let's try to get this the right way. Okay, here we go. Okay, hopefully that gave you a good look because I could not see what I was showing you. So yeah, so big board. So I gotta get this played before it launches on Kickstarter. So looking forward to that. The last game I played of theirs, Lords of Heaven, was also like an asymmetrical game, if I remember correctly. Really enjoyed that game actually, more than I thought I would. So I am looking forward to playing this one. And here is the rule book for this game. So I'm glad it actually comes with a rule book and that I do not need to print out the rules. So that is very nice. So always appreciate that with review copies. And although, yeah, even though I haven't gotten like a review copy in forever, so this is like my first one in a long time. So looking forward to playing it, first review, like Kickstarter coverage copy in a long time, that is. So those are some new arrivals that arrived recently. So let's move on. So I just want to give a quick cat update, well, quick-ish. So today, which is Labor Day, I had off, and yesterday when I was at the colonies, I noticed that one of the cats at colony number 1 was not looking too great. She has like a big clump of like feces or mud stuck to her bottom. Her mouth area and stuff just did not look very good. So I reached out to the organization that I work with, the cat rescue organization, and told them about this cat, and they're like, okay, you need to trap it. And they have appointments set up for September 9th for up to 35 cats to get spayed, neutered, and then, you know, checkups as necessary for health issues and stuff. So they said if I can trap the cat for September 9th, that they would be able to get this cat checked out. So I'm not like an experienced trapper. I've only trapped one cat before, and that was with a trap that I did not need to monitor. I would set it up late at night because it was a cat who would only come in the middle of the night anyway. So that was Ghost Cat. If you guys remember Ghost Cat, I think it was last summer actually. So it was quite a long time ago. Was it last summer? God, has that much time gone by already? So Ghost Cat was a cat that I did not need to actually stay there all night. I would set up the trap late at night and then check it early in the morning and manage to catch this cat. But when you are trying to catch a specific cat like this who is out during the day, so they said that I need to set up a trap and trap train this cat. So this cat has already been trapped previously. It has a tipped ear, so it's already been spayed. But I need to trap train her again. So I need to set up a trap every day where the door is not going to come down, where it has food in it, so the cats get comfortable with going into the trap and eating the food. And then 1 or 2 days, however long it takes to trap her, I'm going to need to sit there and trap her using the bottle and string method. So I've been trained in how to do this, and I have to set up a bottle and a string, and when the cat that I need to trap goes into the trap, then I pull the string, which removes the bottle, and the door comes down, and then she's trapped. So I'm going to be trap training all week long, and I need to figure out where to do this in colony number 1, because colony number 1 is not an ideal location to trap a cat, like, honestly. So that's the one where it's like that kind of like narrow area with like a ditch, and it's like, okay, if I am using the bottle string method, where on earth am I gonna put it and pull the string? The cats, you know, eat behind in that kind of like area. Like, I don't know. So I have a lot to figure out in how I'm gonna do this. But basically, I need to trap train all week and then try trapping the cat on Saturday or Sunday, you know, coming up. So that's going to keep me a little bit busy. So today I spent a bit of time, you know, talking to the organizer of that one, the head of the organization that I work with. So I met with her to borrow a trap and the bottle and string and learn from her how to do all of this and that. And then we just ended up talking for quite some time about all the cats in the area and how many colonies there actually are in this area, and there's just so many cats in need of assistance. And so I'm gonna actually reach out to Millennium Games and see if they're going to be willing to do like a fundraiser to try to raise money for this organization, this TNR organization, because like you know, they're actually struggling a lot financially, and there's just so many cats in this area that need attention and help. So like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of cats, and I only take care of 2 colonies. So yeah, so need to get some financial assistance, and I want to try to help them out with that if I can. So I'm going to see if I can talk to someone at Millennium Games and maybe see if they're willing to do some kind of a fundraiser on one of their big game days to help raise money for this TNR organization, because they're really struggling financially and they have to close their most recent holding space area. And they're currently holding up to 50 cats right now and really don't have the capacity to hold any more cats. And it's basically all the people, the volunteers, just holding them in their homes now, in their like basements and garages and stuff, because their holding space, they lost it and it closed. So yeah, it's really hard work. Like, these people who dedicate their lives to taking care of animals, these nonprofit organizations, it's a lot of hard work, and it's really hard for them to get money and donations. And when she told me the amount of like money she gets even from like a fundraiser, and when I heard like, so they had a recent fundraiser and all they received from that fundraiser was $250, and I was like, I spend way more than that on cat food for these colonies in 1 month. Like, $250 is nothing from a fundraiser. Like, that's just like pennies when it comes to taking care of hundreds and hundreds of cats. So I want to see if I can try to help them raise money somehow. So I need to look into that somehow. So that is my cat colony update, I guess. So so I guess that's an update. So just, you know, send me good luck and good wishes and hopes that I can trap this ill cat and hopefully get her taken care of. The person did, or, you know, that I was talking to, she did tell me that, you know, there are situations in which a cat needs to be put down when you realize it's not well, and, you know, you have to look at the resources and how much time and money it would cost to, you know, treat the cat and so on. And so that's a reality I guess I need to get used to, because I do not want this cat to be put down, because when I see them, I see how close they are with each other, how they're always cuddling with one another, and it would just really break my heart if I trapped a cat and then that cat never came back to its colony and its friends and, you know, family is wondering where it is. Like, that would just really, really be so sad. So we'll see what happens. So I'll keep you updated about the ill cat. It's an orange and white cat. She's really sweet. In fact, yesterday when I first noticed that she just really did not seem to be doing well, she was actually really close to me. She was within arm's reach. So I put out my hand to see if she would sniff my hand, because I thought maybe she was asking for help and then maybe I might be able to pick her up. But as soon as I put out my hand, then she jumped away. But she was like so close to me yesterday. But maybe she is asking for help, so maybe I can gain her trust and maybe it'll be easier to trap her than I think. So we'll see. So I'll keep you posted on this cat, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's move on. So for this week's fiction book club, we were supposed to read chapters 29 to 32 of The Free People's Village by Sim Kern. Honestly, I cannot remember what happened now. I feel like not much happened. All I can remember is that Maddie ended up going to some kind of a protest or something, but she left early before all the protesters started getting gassed. So she had purposely left her inhaler at home so that she could run home in a situation like that and not get gassed again. So that's something I remember. And I remember some discussion about why people gave up their religions. So that's another part I remember from these chapters. But honestly, that's all I really remember now. So I think that's what happened in these last few chapters, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so let me think. I'm trying to remember if that's what happened. Oh yeah. So yeah, I see on here on page like 196 them talking about religion and why they gave up their religions and so on and stuff like that. I will say, you know, as someone who has gone, whose, you know, religiosity has ebbed and flowed, it, like, you know, sometimes it depends on things that can happen to you. You know, for me, sometimes it depends on stuff that might happen to me, which might make me lose a little bit of faith. You know, I feel like it's just a natural part of life to sometimes have strong faith, sometimes to have not as strong faith. But I am a believer. I'm not an atheist, so I can't speak for someone who's an atheist about why they have given up belief. So couldn't really relate to all of that too much, because I think that, you know, as someone who does believe in God, like, you know, someone else treating me badly is not going to make me give up my faith and make me stop believing in God just because someone else treated me badly. And it's believing in God that would make me continue to keep on going even through the really rough times, you know, in hopes and a belief that there will be justice in the end, in the next life. So I can't really relate to all of that discussion as much when they're talking about why they gave up their religion, though my level of religiosity has ebbed and flowed, and it probably will continue to do so, but I don't think I'll ever end up giving up religion entirely. Like, it's just probably not a possibility for me. So yeah, so again, I think that's what happened in these chapters. Oh, and then I think it ends with them planning some kind of action in order to really get something done. So Red and, was it Justice? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Red and Justice maybe planning something to do something where they feel like they'll get a lot more accomplished than just showing up at these protests, getting gassed. Because I think Red was saying something like, what's really getting accomplished? And that's a good point. Like, something that I guess you can wonder about. Like, when people go to protests, you know, some people are like, oh, protesting is just pointless. Like, what is it really accomplishing? I think until you get a critical mass, a number that is really going to get recognized by the government, then maybe it actually isn't doing much, but maybe it encourages more people to come out. So I'm actually thinking about all the pro-Palestine protests right now and the anti-genocide protests, you know, thinking about all of those. And, you know, there's still cities around the world where hundreds of thousands of people are coming out at one time to protest and show their support for Palestine. But in the end, is it really doing anything? Is it putting an end to the genocide? It's not causing an end to the genocide. But I think it still helps to show the world that here are all these people who support this cause, and maybe it'll encourage them to open their eyes and open their minds and maybe investigate a little bit more. So there is that benefit, I think, of protesting, especially if there's passersby who might stop and be like, hey, what's going on? And then you can educate them about what's going on. So I think that there are still benefits to protesting, even if it doesn't like result in any immediate and major change. Yeah, anyway, let me know what you think, what you thought of these few chapters, and then for next week, let's read chapters 33, 34, 35, and 36. So chapters 33 to 36. These chapters are quite short, actually, but you know, let's just keep on going at this rate and we'll be done with the book soon enough. So yeah, so let me know what you thought and do batch reading for next week. So that was The Free People's Village. Oh, I will say that those drones and stuff sound really scary, and those are actually, drones like that and stuff are actually, and these like robots and stuff like that are actually being used in Palestine against the Palestinians. And this author actually talked about that in her book Genocide Bad, if I remember correctly. So that was just very like scary, and you think that it's all futuristic, but it's actually happening right now, and that's really, really terrifying. So yeah, anyway, so let me know what you thought in the comments below, and yeah, let's do the reading for next week. So let's move on. So for this week's nonfiction, we were supposed to read chapter 6 of Iran, A Modern History by Abbas Amanat, and I still haven't finished the chapter. So I haven't gotten that very far in it, so I'm not gonna actually discuss it this week, and this week's excuse is still kind of the same as last week's. So my mother and little sister were visiting for the week, and they left on Sunday, which is yesterday, because I'm actually shooting this on a Monday, which is a holiday, Labor Day. So on Saturday, I was busy all day with family stuff, and then yesterday they left, and then I got caught up in cleaning and organizing my home after they left, and I really thought that I would finish my reading yesterday, but that did not happen, because then after all the cleaning and organizing, I was just really, really tired. So yeah, I did not finish my readings, and then I thought I would at least get through a good portion of the chapter today and be able to discuss it. But then today, if you watch my cat video, my cat section in this video, I actually met up with the organizer of the TNR, the trap, neuter, and rescue group that I work with, because there's a sick cat in colony number 1 that I'm trying to trap. So I ended up meeting with her just to kind of get some training on how to trap this one sick cat that I need to trap, and I ended up talking with her for quite a bit of time. And then my afternoon and day just got taken up with that, and I started shooting this video really late, actually. So right now it's almost like 4 p.m. and I actually need to go and take care of the stray cat soon and set up a trap. So yeah, so I know I'm talking a lot about cats and other stuff instead of actually talking about Iran, which I know I am the worst. I totally understand that I am the worst. But I did at least read like, I don't know, like 7 pages of that chapter 6. So I got somewhere, just not very far. I will say this though, this isn't one of those books like, you know, the books that we read for Palestine, where I think I'm going to be reading everything I highlighted, because it would be a lot. Like, this is a very long chapter, and if I just read everything that I highlighted, and I feel like I'm probably highlighting too much still. If I read everything that I highlighted, I feel like I would just be like regurgitating all of Iran's history, like step by step, and we would be here forever. And, you know, I do think Iran's history is important. So I just want to try to give like broad overview strokes of Iran's history when I do start talking about the chapters that we're reading. So I'm going to try to do that. I feel like I'm really terrible at, you know, summarizing things. I've just become really used to just reading everything that I've highlighted to you guys. So I'm going to need to, you know, learn how to summarize stuff again, like I used to do when I was in school. So I just need to learn how to do that again. I will say that reading this book and with the autumn weather we've been having, it kind of made me feel like a student again, which I really loved, because I really loved being a student. And for like the vast majority of my life, I guess I was a student. So how many years have I been a working adult for now? I think I've been a working adult since 2014-ish. Yeah. I think I've been officially a working adult since 2014, so like 11 years. And, you know, I was a student for the vast majority of my life. even outside of high school. So, you know, I had undergrad and then I had 2 grad school experiences, and I just always loved school. I always loved autumn, and I loved the feeling of, you know, going to class and just learning so much, and seeing all these other people learning at the same time, just that whole academic environment. Like, I love academia and I just love being on campus. In fact, a few years ago, I was seeing this guy who was a PhD student at Cornell in philosophy, and he was teaching a class. Sorry, I know I'm going off on a major tangent here. So I asked him if I could actually sit in on his on his philosophy class, because I just really missed being a student. So for that one semester, that one fall semester, I was a student in philosophy at Cornell, and I even did all the homework. I did all the readings. I would participate in class discussion. So it was really fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I really love being a student, really miss being a student. So that was a lot of fun. God, that was like years ago too now. Gosh, time goes by so quickly. So yeah, so these, you know, doing this reading and the weather just made me feel like a student. So maybe that will motivate me. And finally, I think for next week, we will be on track because my family is gone. I'm feeling much better health-wise, like no more vomiting from food poisoning, or, you know, my recovery is going better from my surgery, so I feel much better. So, and it's like autumn now, so I think we will be on track for next week. So again, we will try yet again for next week, and I think I will have the readings done finally. But again, I'm not going to make promises, but I think we will actually have it done next week. I will have it done next week, and again, I will try to give broad strokes rather than spending like 40 minutes just reading everything I've highlighted. So I'm going to try my best to learn how to summarize properly. So yet again, I have failed you all, and I have shown how I have no credibility. But for next week, please read chapter 6 of this book, which I've now been saying probably for a month. Yeah, so we will try again next week. Sorry. Okay, let's move on. So this week's rant of the week is going to be pretty short because I have quite a bit of work to do at colony number 1 today, which I talked about in the cat section of this video if you're interested. But I have to set up a trap in order to try to capture a sick cat, but I'm actually not going to trap the cat until later in the week, but I have to get the cat trap trained and so on. Anyway, so I have quite a bit of work to do, and I need to laminate some signs that won't get destroyed in the rain because I'm just going to have to leave the trap there and so on. Okay, but enough babbling about that. So the one thing I want to talk about this week is, well, a couple of things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about a post that Eric Lang made on Blue Sky about 5 days ago from when I'm shooting this video. So he made a post on Blue Sky. So first there is an article, an NBC News article. The article says, the Trump administration directs 40 states, 5 territories, and Washington, D.C. to remove references to transgender people from their sex education programs or risk losing federal funding. And Eric's commentary is, if it looks like a Nazi and governs exactly like a Nazi, it's a fucking Nazi. Now, what have I been saying for God knows how many months now? If it talks like a Zionist, if it acts like a Zionist, if it believes like a Zionist, if it's a fucking Zionist. So Helena Kappel, she talks like a Zionist, she believes like a Zionist, she acts like a Zionist. What is Helena Kappel? She is a fucking Zionist. She doesn't need to come out and say in her own words, I'm a Zionist, but she's a fucking Zionist. And what do Zionists believe in? Zionists believe in apartheid. They believe in genocide. They believe that they are the superior race and that it's okay to perfectly exterminate millions and millions of Palestinians. You know, all of this horrible stuff that everyone should be condemning today. And if you don't know anything about Zionism, then I will say, as I say every week, read a fucking damn book. So this is Genocide Bad by Sim Kern, an anti-Zionist Jewish author. Read it. It's really easy reading. So if you want just a quick primer on Zionism, read this fucking book. So yes, so here is Eric Lang yet again using the term Nazi, not to describe the actual Nazis of today, who are the Zionists committing this genocide, but to describe the US government. Now, is what the US government, the Trump administration, doing bad? Of course it's bad, right? And of course it's going to hurt trans people. But are over 1 million trans people's lives at risk because of this? No, there are not 1 million trans people's lives at imminent risk because of this. However, there are over 1 million Palestinians' lives at imminent risk of starvation by the Israeli government and this ongoing ethnic cleansing, this ongoing genocide. Yet, has Eric Lang ever used the words Nazi to talk about the Zionists that are committing this genocide? No. Yet here he is using genocidal, language, Nazi, talking about Nazis to talk about what the Trump administration is doing, while yet again completely ignoring the ongoing genocide. Like, Eric Lang is fucking garbage. Eric Lang is a fucking piece of shit. He has shown you by now what the fuck he is. Week after week after week, we have seen him give every excuse for why he remains silent about the genocide. Oh, don't expect people to say something about something. Don't come at me with whataboutism, blah, blah, blah. I've already shown you in previous videos all the shitty excuses he's given for his silence. And here he is talking about Nazis to talk about the Trump administration instead of the actual Nazis of today committing a genocide. The Nazis of World War II committed a genocide. The Zionists of today, the Nazis of today, are committing a genocide, but he will not talk about that. He will yet however, talk about when trans people's lives are made a little bit more difficult. Yes, it sucks what's happening to them, but there are far worse things happening right now, which these people just do not want to talk about. Yet, everyone in the industry still looks to them as being the champions of human rights, the champions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, that is just complete fucking bullshit, and I don't know how much more clear to make that. Eric Lang, Suzanne Sheldon, and Rodney Smith are fucking garbage. None of them have said a word about the genocide, yet all three of them are looked to as leaders in this industry, as being the human rights champions in this industry. Also, Our Family Plays Games. So the four of them, they're all looked to as being leaders in this industry of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and human rights, yet they're all fucking complicit with their silence. They all choose to remain silent. When you choose to remain silent about a genocide, you are just telling the world what your values are and what you're choosing. You're choosing the side of the oppressor. These people are choosing the side of the oppressor because they don't want to lose their Zionist followers, they don't want to lose their Zionist money, and so on. They are just fucking shills, and they are all just fucking garbage. There's really nothing more to say about that. They're just complete fucking garbage. And yet people are still going to fawn over them. People are still going to act like they are always on the right side of history when they're so clearly fucking not. Someday, I've said before, someday it's going to be acceptable to call out Zionists for what they are. Just, back during World War II, I bet you if people tried, pointing a finger at someone and saying, hey, that person is a Nazi, don't trust them, they probably would have been looked at funny and been like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with Nazis? Well, it's the same fucking thing today. When you call out Zionists for being what they are, which is genocidal freaks, genocidal maniacs, you might be looked at in a weird way by the Zionists and people who support the fucking Zionists, but the people who are on the right side of history know that Zionists are in the wrong and that they are evil monsters who are supporting a genocide, who are the reason for the genocide. They are the reason that there is a genocide happening. Zionism is the fucking reason. It is the root cause of this genocide. So someday there's going to come a time where the world will acknowledge, what Zionism is, what Israel is, and these people are going to pretend that they were on the right side of history when they never fucking were, because so much time has passed. We're coming up on 2 years now, and these people, these garbage humans have remained utterly silent when they have spoken up about so many other things. They bitch and moan about AI art way more than they've ever, they've never even given a single moment's attention to the genocide. So I can't even say way more because it's literally zero compared to a lot. 0 for the genocide and a shit ton for AI art and stuff like that. The genocide just does not even matter to them. They just literally do not care that Arabs and Muslims are being slaughtered and, that there's a fucking genocide happening. They're just showing you what fucking garbage they are. And I'm just so sick of the industry worshiping fucking garbage like this. And, there's people that I'm friends with, that I'm associated with, who admire these people. Fine, you know, go on admiring your fucking garbage idols, that's fine, but they're fucking garbage. So one thing that really irritates me is when I see people on Facebook, and I've done this a couple of times. So on a couple of occasions, so the most recent one I actually talked about in last week's video, I think, was when I took screenshots of that Zionist in Israel and I posted them in my Instagram stories. And I was like, why are you people following this fucking Zionist who is a complete racist, genocidal maniac, Shai Faleh in Israel? And did that cause people to unfollow him? No, whatever. Okay, so fine. But people on Facebook, you know, I have so many friends on Facebook from the industry, and I swear to God, it's like once a week maybe, someone will take screenshots of someone's comments and be like, oh, here's a fucking garbage human who said all this racist, transphobic stuff, and I have like 200 or 400 mutuals with this person. Like, so if you're friends with them, you should unfriend them, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've seen so many of these posts on Facebook, right? So the most recent one I saw was today, actually, and one of the people who commented on this post warning other people about this transphobic person is a raging fucking Zionist, right? And in his profile picture, he still has the flag of Israel and it says, I stand with Israel. So almost 2 years after this genocide began, this fucking Zionist by the name of Philip Millman, who I have so many mutuals with on Facebook, he's a fucking Zionist who supports the genocide, proudly supports the genocide, and still has as his Facebook profile picture, I stand with Israel. He's commenting on this post that this person made about this other transphobic person being like, oh yeah, he went to the right side a long time ago, the right-wing side a long time ago. He's far gone. He can't be helped, blah, 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 whatever, stuff like that. And people will just like completely ignore the fact that there's a genocidal maniac commenting about how someone else is transphobic, and yeah, you just ignore that person, like shun them, block them, whatever, because they can't be helped. Yet they're perfectly fine, listening to a fucking Zionist who supports a genocide. Like, what does that tell you about this industry? What does that tell you about the people in this industry? That no one will fucking out any Zionists in this industry. No one will fucking say, hey, here's this person who supports a genocide. Maybe you should unfriend this person because they fucking support a genocide. No one's doing that. They're only doing that for when it comes to trans rights, like transphobia. Like, literally, that's like all I ever see is transphobia being the reason that people will try to out other people as being bad humans. It's never about the genocide, and they will continue to remain friends with their friends who support the genocide. And that fucking includes Eric Lang. He doesn't need to come out and say, I support the genocide, but he's sure as hell showing the world that he is never, ever, ever going to say a word against it. He's never, ever going to stand up for Arabs and Muslims who are being slaughtered by the hundreds of thousands and be like, this is wrong. Like, fuck Eric Lang, fuck all of them. They are fucking genocide supporters. Like, there's just no ifs or buts about it. I'm just so fucking fed up of people worshiping these people, these monsters, these garbage humans who continue to show you that they just don't fucking care about a genocide. Like, how is this not the litmus test? Like, everywhere else I look, everyone's like, this is the litmus test of our generation. Like, this is the litmus test to see whether you are someone who would have stood up against the Nazis in World War II. Yet in this industry, it's certainly not. Like, in this industry, it's always just about trans rights. And, the hell with Muslims being slaughtered or the Arabs being slaughtered by the hundreds of thousands. Like, who the fuck gives a shit about them? Let's just, keep on crying about trans rights, even though trans people are not being murdered. Trans people are not being killed right now. Like, unfucking believable. Like, just really, yeah, these people just cannot in the future claim that they were on the right side of history. And if they do, they should be so fucking ashamed of themselves. Like, they should be so fucking ashamed of themselves right now, but especially in the future if they ever try acting like they were on the right side of history right now, because they're so fucking not. Like, they've had so many fucking opportunities to speak up, and all these people who are worshipped in this industry have not said a fucking word. So, like, fuck all of them. And for all of those people who are just so fucking cowardly that they can't even say one word to their friends who they worship, like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, Like, I just don't know anymore. It's just, yeah. But again, it's just, you know, it's just really tiring being the only person screaming about this in this industry. And this is not the extreme reaction. Again, if you go on Instagram or TikTok and look at people who are actually very much engaged in talking about the genocide and want it to end, like, I'll tell you, they scream a lot more than me, and they are like raging and crying and doing so much more than I am because of how badly they're affected by this. Like, that's the fucking normal reaction to a genocide. Like, maybe I've said the word genocide too much. Maybe the word genocide has been said too much that people have just become desensitized to it. But like, do people not understand what a genocide is? Do people not understand how it's the worst thing that exists on earth? It's a genocide. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it seems like there's nothing I can say to make people fucking understand. And well, people who just don't care are never going to fucking understand. I think it's become abundantly clear that Eric Lang, Suzanne Sheldon, Rodney Smith, and Our Family Plays Games, people who claim to care about human rights, are just never fucking going to care about the genocide. And if they ever pretend to care, I hope that, or pretend that they were on the right side of history, I hope that people will remind them that no, they were fucking not. Because I know my voice is just always ignored in this industry. No one listens to me, even though I am the loudest one in this industry about Palestine. But when it comes to anything related to Palestine, does anyone ever mention my name or address, you know, talk to me or see, like, you know, how they can do something for Palestine? No, I'm just completely ignored and cast aside as being the crazy person because I was the one who called out Helena Kaplan as a Zionist in 2021. So yeah, so, you know, these people are just shit. They're just all garbage, and I just don't know what else to say anymore. So yeah, so that is my rant of the week. So let's move on. This week's question of the week is inspired by Artistry. I want to know if you have any Kickstarter regrets where you backed a game because the components just looked absolutely stunning, but then there actually just wasn't much game to the game. Like, it was just too simple, too simplistic, not worth the amount of money you paid for it, and really it's just beautiful production but not much game there, because that's how I feel about this. That is how I feel about Artistry. I feel like it is an absolutely stunning production with stunning artwork, stunning components, but just not much game there that's going to keep me you know, wanting to come back to this again and again and again. So, you know, I feel like this is a coffee table game. This is a game you might want to keep on a coffee table because it looks beautiful, but that doesn't have much to it, really. So let me know if you have any games like that that you regret backing or buying because they were just absolutely stunning, but then just didn't have much going on in them to keep you interested. Leave the names in the comments below, and I will be sure to avoid those. And until next week, bye!